So something, I love to talk about are things that most content creators don't like to talk about. Staying in the safe zone. I guess that's probably why you look and you see me with like 80 something thousand subscribers with minimal views, because of the fact that I typically like to ride the target right over the center of it. And YouTube's like, "Ugh." So this isn't probably going to go to a lot of people, but the people it does go to probably would love to see and hear what I'm fixing to show you or getting ready to show you. Sorry for the southern terminology. Hospitals have been caught harvesting organs. Yes, if you're an organ donor, you are willing or a willing subject, but what you run into is the fact that hospitals understand the value behind that. And so what's the bigger option here? Is it to preserve your life to the umpteenth degree? Or are you now a willing commodity? And so with that being said, they sort of go, yeah, let's not really do all of our 100%. Or better yet, let's not wait and see what happens. Like there was a recent deal that where this young boy, when I say young, he was in his 20s, had been in a car accident, was rendered brain dead, and then the doctor said, yeah, we'll go ahead and get him set up. We're going to harvest organs and whatnot there, and then come to find out that was not the case at all. It got to the point where they ended up having to stop the procedures, but they'd already done a lot to this person, trying to sedate him, and he was overcoming the sedation, and they realized they weren't working with somebody who was brain dead, but the doctors tried to say that he was. Let me play this few minutes right here. And this is something you can look this up. You can Google behind me. This is, if you think that I'm telling you a shenanigans, and prove me wrong.
I am sad to tell you, I am taking my name off of the organ donor list. I don't want to be on this list after what I'm learning after reading this federal study that found all kinds of troubling problems with the organ donation system. When I say troubling problems, 30% apparently had troubling signs about who the donors were, including many cases where the patients who were donating organs were not even dead. This is what Robert F. Kennedy Jr., the Health and Human Services Secretary, wrote on the platform X. I'll read it to you. He says, our findings show that hospitals allowed the organ procurement process to begin when patients showed signs of life. And this is horrifying, Secretary Kennedy said. You better believe it's horrifying. Listen to this doctor spell out some of the problems.
When you go to sign up to be an organ donor, you go to the Department of Motor Vehicles and you see the brightly colored signs that say, give the gift of life. You're never offered a consent form. You're never told that when you become a brain dead organ donor, you are not biologically dead.
All right, which means they take your organs. And here's what's become even more frightening. You may not even actually be brain dead, as we've learned from this congressional hearing, where story after story had my eyes popping for these patients. These are the findings of the study. Let me show you this, graphic 0. Of the 351 cases that they studied here, 103 cases, 29%, had, quote, concerning issues. 73 patients showed neurological signs incompatible with donation, and at least 28 patients may not have been deceased when organ procurement began. Some of the problems were poor neurologic assessments, lack of team coordination, questionable consent, and misclassified causes of death, especially in overdoses. Folks, listen to this congressional testimony. This is Kat Kamek. She's a congresswoman from Florida.
In 2021, a doctor filed a case report about a woman with Down syndrome who was in an operating room being treated as an organ donor. During the harvesting of her organs, staff realized that her aortic and renal arteries were pumping and pulsing. In other words, she was not dead. The patient was given powerful drugs, fentanyl and lorazepam, and then, according to the doctor filing the case report, 18 minutes after she was first pronounced dead, she was pronounced dead a second time.
So what that sounds like to me is they sedated this person to the extent, like, regardless of what the circumstances are, they weren't going by protocol. They were stretching the use of the words in protocol to fit what they needed so that they could gather what they wanted. When you donate organs, there's a big business behind this. There's a lot of money to be made by the non-profits you call hospitals. Let's see what else we got.
Can you imagine? I mean, I've heard stories now of people were crying as they were being wheeled down into a surgical operating room to take their organs, only to have family members step in and say, enough is enough. So here's how it works. You put your name on the list, and then guess what? These organ donor companies want your organs by hook or by crook. 3 hours, some families are given notice as to, hey, your loved one's going in. We've classified them as brain dead. You don't get to make a decision. Watch this video taken in the hallway of a hospital of a mother who learned that she couldn't stop her son from going in to give up organs, and the son, in her opinion, was still alive.
They never told us they were doing this today. Never. Never. For money. For money. For money. This is all about money. This is all about money.
Give him a big hug and kiss.
We're doing a victory walk.
It's an honor walk.
An honor walk. And y'all just notified us 3 hours ago.
It's heart-wrenching. And apparently they do this honor walk to pay homage to the person who was allegedly dead before they take their organs, harvest them to give to somebody else. And again, story after story we hear, many of these people were not dead. I thought you were dead. Apparently that's a myth when it comes to organ donation. Here's another story.
After his family consented organ donation, the HRSA report details the critical failure to reassess that decision following developing circumstances. Specifically, hospital and OPO staff documented improved neurological function at multiple points between the OPO was contacted.
So amazing stuff. And it is really shocking to me because in the quest to save one life, it appears too often than not, they may be taking another life. And what's sad about all of this is as this story emerges, you get a guy like me who says, hold on a second, I'm taking my name off the donor list. People who need organs in a legitimate fashion are now not going to get them because I think this whole process has been mismanaged. That, I believe, is what will come of all of this.
Yeah, exactly. He's 100% right. This is going to cause really bad blowback when it comes to that. There has been, like I say, that one younger guy. I would like to find where he, trying to find this article, but he, I had it too, but he was like still alive. He was rendered, he's brain dead. And then come to find out there was neurological activity and they ended up sending him home minus a bunch of his organs. I don't know how he's doing right now, but this was a recent story that just came out, which means that you're no longer just you're not a patient anymore at a hospital. It's just trying to figure out what they want to do with you. We watched doctors in real time actually push this whole thing with that pandemic. That pandemic, being the fact that you were an experiment. If you would come in there with the sniffles, and then next thing you know, you're on a ventilator and you're given all these experimental things, and then you're wheeled out on a body bag. Yeah, it's pretty wild. And it's there are real doctors out there. There are, but the thing about it is like, where are they? And I hope you get one. On another note. I'm laughing because I'm about to show you something that's going to blow your socks off. Charles Manson. I know you're like, what? Okay, Charles Manson is actually going to make a lot of sense. Say what you want about the dude. Yeah, he was nuts. So were the people that were around him that he instructed to do what they did. And the sacrificial unalivings of some of the movie stars, which if you really dig down the rabbit hole, that has to do with the Hollywood hit list that is typically put in, at the helms of some of these stars when it's time for them to not be around anymore. He was actually a very insightful man. I'm not saying he was a good man. Just, you've got to give credit where credit's due, but he's going to dig into, like, when it comes to the anti-Semitism and the reason why it exists and the reason why you need a foul-playing character Like, say for instance, when people that play victimhood, they really love being the victim, because without that they lose all their power in society, because without their victimhood status, then they have nothing at all. And this is, by the way, the left understands that. That's why they want the people on the, in all these social media videos to be self-proclaimed victims, even though there's no reason for them to feel that way. They've got to figure out ways to get a situation where they are the victim, so that they can have this hubris behavior of where the entitlement comes from. And I can explain it, but here is Charles Manson. No joke. Watch this.
The Jews won't let the Second World War stop. They keep the Second World War going. They keep it going. They keep perpetuating it because they're making money. As soon as the Second World War was over, they never stopped the brainwash. The brainwash that they were selling the American public was making money. You see what I'm saying?
First of all, this article, I have nothing against Jewish people. It's the Zionist government that is doing all the harm and causing all of the division by creating these narratives to where they give this feeling of superiority over the normal people, which is all a tactic. This is how you do this, by the way. So I'm not playing into this. I'm just explaining to you what's going on here, and the people behind the scenes who use this kind of knowledge are the reason why you have this division amongst people. So I'm only exposing what's being done to make this a thing. So please, Jewish people, understand that I have no harm, no foul intent. I love you guys. You're just like us. You're just caught up in the mosh of government that's all hell bent on division. That's all.
They were making money. They're not going to stop making money. If the combination's there to make money, they're going to keep selling it. They'll sell it all the way till I'm in the cell with a guy named Millman, Jerry Millman. And he's got pictures of Hitler and Japanese and things all. I said, boy, Hitler must have been a hell of a guy. He said, Hitler was terrible. I hate him. I said, why do you hate him? He said, I'm a Jew. I said, well, why are you enshrine this guy? Is he your daddy? And he looked up to his mother's fear. And his mother's fear was Hitler. Hitler was like his father figure. He loved Hitler, but he hated Hitler. He needed Hitler to hold him up, because Hitler was holding his hate up, because without his hate, he didn't exist. He didn't have no reason to live unless he had some hate. He didn't have any reason to buy and sell unless the money held him up. You took the money away from him, you took the hate away from him, he'd be gone. So how do you communicate to a whole group of people? You stand up and you take the worst fear symbol there is and say, there, now I've got your fear.
Does that make any sense? Can y'all dig that? This doesn't just apply to Jewish people. This applies to anybody who's felt like they've placed a situation in their life that was tragic, and then facilitated that tragic situation to define their personality from here on out, so that they can have a form of entitlement that has superiority over you. Not necessarily anything to do with Jewish people, but just the fact that maybe a family member done them wrong, or a friend done them wrong, somebody stole something from them, or basically, there's so many situations where people will just pick a situation in their life that happened, and instead of getting over it and moving on and become a bigger person and growing in this world and adding to this world positivity, they used a situation to become a victim, so that you owed them something, so that they had power over you, so that they didn't feel guilty about the fact that they just didn't want to put forth an effort in life. That's my point behind this. So anyways, that's a very insightful statement when it comes to hate, having somebody that hates you, and then using that as a crutch to become some sort of higher ranking person than the person that's sitting beside you, instead of just being equal and living on that. Anyways, guys, be careful with your organs, and thank you for watching. And if you have any problems with what I said, put in the comment sections. We'll hash it out. I'm out. Bye.